It merely says that the necessary resources, such sums as may be necessary, will remain available until expended. So I think we need to quantify exactly what those sums are and write it in the bill so that everyone is clear on that, and so that it would withstand challenge in the future. So those are just a couple of respectful suggestions, Madam Chair, but I am very much looking forward to the testimony today. It is a very difficult topic for all of us, but I am very supportive of the goal of achieving both truth and healing here, and looking forward to our time together. I'll yield back.
Thank you, Representative Ogle-Nolte. Now I will transition to our panel of witnesses for today. Before introducing them, I will remind our witnesses that they are encouraged to participate in a witness diversity survey created by the Congressional Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Witnesses may refer to their hearing invitation materials for further information. Under our committee rules, oral statements are limited to 5 minutes, but you may submit a longer statement for the record if you choose, and I would simply note that we have received your statements and we have read them. Thank you for the written statements that you've already sent us. When you begin, the on-screen timer will begin counting down and it will turn orange when you have 1 minute remaining. I recommend that members and witnesses joining remotely lock the timer on their screen. When you go over the allotted time, I will tap my gavel and kindly ask you to please wrap up your statement. After your testimony is complete, please remember to mute yourself to avoid any inadvertent background noise. I will allow the entire panel to testify before we begin the question portion of the witnesses. Now, as we've noted, we are asking for testimony from survivors and those who have firsthand knowledge of a very difficult and dark period of our history. Before I introduce our first witness, I want to advise members, viewers, and listeners that some of the testimony we are about to hear today may be graphic and disturbing. We are simply noting that so that everyone tuning in and listening will be aware of such possibility. The chair now recognizes Mr. James LaBelle, Sr., who is the first Vice President of the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition and a boarding school survivor. Mr. James LaBelle, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
That is LaBelle, huh?
Thank you. My name is James William LaBelle Sr. In my culture, I am also known as Akpayuk, which means fast runner. I was named after an uncle who had passed away, and it's tradition in our culture to be named someone who came before us. I'm a product of a mixed marriage. My father was French and Irish, and my mother was Eskimo, or otherwise known as Inupiaq, as we say. She came from a little village called Kotzebue above the Arctic Circle on the Bering Sea coast. I was born in Fairbanks, Alaska in 1947, and I just turned 75 years old a few weeks ago. I come to you as a very assimilated and acculturated man. When I first went to boarding school, I believed I was truly bilingual. I could speak Inupiaq and I could speak English. But I quickly suppressed my wishes to speak my English or Inupiaq because of the horrors I saw and witnessed when other children were severely beaten for speaking their language. I'm also a Vietnam era veteran. I have a younger brother who was killed in Vietnam. I am married for 52 years. I have 3 children and 7 grandchildren. I'm part of the Port Graham Village tribe and a shareholder in one of our ANCSA corporations called Chugach, Alaska. I've been waiting 67 years to tell this story. While I might have received an education or a white man's education, in the process I lost my own language, my own culture, my traditions. And today I cannot speak my language, nor could I conduct all of those wonderful traditional activities we call subsistence hunting, fishing, and gathering. I guess I'd like to give you an idea of why how I got started. When my father died, my mother was immediately asked to give us up to adoption or to boarding school, and she chose to give us up to boarding school. In 1955, I went to Wrangell Institute for the first of 6 years that I was there, and witnessed so many atrocities that almost became normal or normalized. At the Fairbanks Airport, we were given name tags. We were sent on our way to all of our flights. It was terrifying for many because transportation in the mid-50s was not what we know of it today. I met other children that were tethered together with ropes, and I was tied together with ropes to the other children. It took almost 2 days to get to Wrangell, the institute I was at. And while there, we were stripped naked at the boys' dorm, had our hair shorn to where we were bald. All of our clothes were confiscated. We were standing naked among other children who were foreign to each other, put up into showers that were strange to us, given numbers for names, and many children had difficult names and were oftentimes only referred to by their number. Every step of the way there was punishments for speaking our language, either in the dormitories or in the classroom or in the mess hall. Boys and girls were both equally sexually, physically, psychologically, and spiritually abused. And I have many, many witnesses to those atrocities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell, for sharing the story that you have been waiting to tell for so long of your loss. The chair will now recognize Mr. Matthew War Bonnet, who is a boarding school survivor and a citizen of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. Mr. Bonnet, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to provide this testimony in support of the Indian Boarding School Bill. My name is Matthew War Bonnet. I am of the Shoshone Lakota people who now call the Rosebud Sioux Reservation home. I am the son of Matthew War Bonnet and Julian Swally, the grandson of Joseph War Bonnet and Jenny Yellowhair, and the great-grandson of Folding Throat and Purdy Bird. I am 76 years old. The topic I'm speaking about today, the boarding schools, and my experience with them, is a difficult topic to talk about. It is hard to speak about it without making myself feel bad by bringing up these memories. But I agreed to speak only because my sisters gave me permission to speak. I am one of 10 siblings, and we all attended the same boarding school. My mother and my father also attended the boarding schools. I was only 6 years old when I was taken to the St. Francis boarding school in South Dakota in 1952. I attended this boarding school 24/7 for 10 months out of the year for 8 years total. The majority of my childhood, I left St. Francis boarding school after the 8th grade in 1960. My boarding school experience is very painful and traumatic. I remember when I first got to school, the priest took us to this big room which had 6 or 8 bathtubs in it. The priest took all us little guys and put us in one tub, and he scrubbed us hard with a big brush. The brush made our skins and our backsides all raw. And we had to have our hair cut. The school then put all the little guys in the same dormitory. We were together the first to fourth grades. At night time, you could hear all the children crying, lonely for their families. I remember seeing my sisters. During my stay at the school, corporal punishment was common. The police would often get impatient and discipline us by hitting us with a leather strap or a willow stick. There was also punishment to what we call the Jesus rope, which was a rope with several strands coming off of it. We were hit with this and the razor straps, and one police sometimes used a cattle prod on us. Another way the police disciplined us was to lock us out of the school during the cold winter. When this would happen, the little guys would be shivering and crying. Some of us older boys would take our coats off and cover them. One time, a priest threw my older brother Joe Warbonnet down a flight of stairs and broke his arm. I think the priest was also abusing him in other ways. The police also punished us by isolating us and limiting our access to food. One time I got in trouble, and my punishment was for 10 days I was separated from other kids and given only bread and water to eat. I don't even remember what I did to deserve this type of punishment. Each June, every parent would come and pick us up to go home for the summer. My parents were Lakota speakers at home. Because we were at school, we were not allowed to speak and learned to speak English and Latin. Sometimes they taught us Spanish as well. It was difficult to speak with my parents in my Lakota language. That got away from us, the Lakota language. But we are still trying hard to catch up with that ever since. Once I got out of boarding school, I went to the high school at the Pine Ridge Community High School in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I was always very, very proud of our service people, our Lakota people who served in the military and others. One day I was talking to some fellow high school students and told them about my dad's service in the Army and how he got captured by the Japanese. And I said that he was captured and tortured by the Japanese, and each day they cut off a toe until all his toes were gone. One guy, who was my cousin, said to me, "Your dad was never in the Army." Of course, I said, call him my dad, why never got in a fight. When I went home, my dad told me that when he was in the